to please be seated as we will start the program with Tilawat Quran. Salawat.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والفجر وليال عشر والشفع والوتر والليل إذا يسر هل في ذلك قسم لذي حجر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والفجر وليال عشر والشفع والوتر والليل إذا يسري هل في ذلك قسم لذي حجر ألم تر كيف فعل ربك بعاد إرم ذات العماد التي لم يخلق مثلها في البلاد وثمود الذين جابوا الصخر بالواد وفرعون ذي الأوتاد الذين طغوا في البلاد فأكثروا فيها الفساد فصب عليهم ربك سوط عذاب إن ربك لبالمرصاد فأما الإنسان إذا ما ابتلاه ربه فأكرمه ونعمه فيقول ربي أكرمن وأما إذا ما ابتلاه فقدر عليه رزقه فيقول ربي أهانن كلا بل لا تكرمون اليتيم ولا تحاضون يحضون على طعام المسكين وتأكلون التراث أكلا لما وتحبون المال حبا جما كلا إذا دكت الأرض دكا دكا وجاء ربك والملك صفا صفا وجيء يومئذ بجهنم يومئذ يتذكر الإنسان وأنى له الذكرى يقول يا ليتني قدمت لحياتي وجيء يومئذ بجهنم يومئذ يتذكر الإنسان وأنى له الذكرى يقول يا ليتني قدمت لحياتي فيومئذ لا يعذب عذابه أحد ولا يوثق وثاقه أحد يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي صدق الله العلي العظيم. الفاتحة.
Respected scholar, my elders, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum and Kushali Mubarak. Can I ask everyone to please recite 3 loudest salawat to welcome brother Aamel Unia? Allah.
تسأل السورة المباركة الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وطبيب نفوسنا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله أما بعد فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في القرآن الكريم وقوله الحق وهو أصدق الصادقين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات طوبى لهم وحسن مآب صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. My respected scholars, elders, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. All praise belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I begin first and foremost, as always, by thanking Him for granting us this magnificent life, for granting us this magnificent existence. And oftentimes we like to ask the question and reflect upon the fact that why did God create us? Why did God place us upon this earth? And at a fundamental level, the answer is very simple, that God created us simply to express and share His infinite mercy with us. As He informs us in the Holy Quran, إِلَّا مَنْ رَحِمَ رَبُّكَ وَلِذَلِكَ خَلَقَهُمْ, that except those on whom your Lord's mercy is upon, and for that did He create them. Meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, I want you to understand, I created you out of my infinite mercy to share my infinite love and mercy with you. And your objective as a human being created as a human being and placed upon this earth, is to traverse through this life and seek, via making the right choices, via making the right decisions as you navigate through this life, to try and reap maximally from the infinite mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's at the fundamental core level, the objective, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us out of His mercy and gave us the opportunity as human beings to seek maximally from His mercy for eternity. And of course, this concept of eternal bliss, eternal reward, eternal happiness, this is something that's naturally hardwired within us as human beings to covet and desire. In fact, if you were to question the vast majority of the human race, tall, short, male, female, black, white, religious, non-religious, you name it. If you were to ask the human being the very simple, fundamental question that what do you want in life? What is your ultimate objective? What do you want at the end of the day? And you will find more often than not, the answer will boil down at a very fundamental level to something along the lines of happiness, peace, tranquility. That's at the end of the day what we as human beings all covet and desire. In fact, all of the material possessions that we chase, the nice cars, the beautiful spouses, the fancy positions, the promotions, the nice houses, all of those material possessions that we're chasing is because we've been sold on the idea that in the acquisition of those material possessions, I will be able to acquire some level of happiness, some peace, some tranquility. In fact, it is upon this very foundation and basis that the advertising industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Because the entire concept of advertising is they want to sell you upon the idea that through the purchasing of said products, you will be happy. You will have peace. that's what you are missing in your life. That's the missing piece for you to have that inner peace, that inner tranquility, that inner stability. In fact, even if you come to the movie industry, you will find a very similar theme. If you examine many of the classic Disney movies and Disney films that are being produced and have been produced throughout the years, you will find oftentimes there's a very, very common theme in these movies. And it usually goes along the lines of, there's a prince who sees a pretty girl, he falls in love with the girl, he fights to make her his princess, they get married, and then they live happily ever after. Because it's naturally hardwired within us. This is what we all want. We want eternal peace, eternal tranquility, eternal happiness, eternal bliss. And that's why it's interesting that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran, when He invites us towards Iman, when He invites us towards remembrance of God, when He invites us towards faith, this is exactly what He promises us as human beings. In the ayah that I began with from Surah Ra'ad, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ طُوبَى لَهُمْ وَحُسْنُ مَآبٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, those who believe, those who have Iman, and those who do righteous deeds, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ طُوبَى لَهُمْ. Happiness, joy is for them. وَحُسْنُ مَآبٍ. And an excellent destination they shall have. What is that excellent destination? وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ أُولَٰئِكَ أَصْحَابُ الْجَنَّةِ هُمْ فِيهَا خَالِدُونَ. Those who believe and do righteous deeds, they shall attain paradise, and in it they shall reside for eternity. وَبَشِّرِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ الَّذِينَ يَعْمَلُونَ الصَّالِحَاتِ أَنَّ لَهُمْ أَجْرًا حَسَنًا مَاكِثِينَ فِيهِ أَبَدًا. Give good news to the believers, those who do righteous deeds. For them is an excellent reward that they will reside in for eternity. Eternal bliss, eternal peace and tranquility. And I mention this because I think it's imperative for us to realize at a fundamental level that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls us towards His remembrance, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls us towards Iman, towards faith, it's not because God needs us to remember Him. It's not because God needs us to worship Him and believe in Him. No, rather, it is because it is only through the remembrance of God and Iman and faith in God does true eternal peace and tranquility and happiness that we as human beings also earnestly desire. In that remembrance of God and Iman in God, can we truly find that? The kind that's real, that's permanent, that's everlasting. And that's why it's profound. If you examine the first few ayat of Surah Al-Kahf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala beautifully describes, He says, Alhamdulillahi alladhi أنزل على عبده الكتاب لم يجعل له عوجا. That praise be to Allah who revealed to His servant this book, referring to the Holy Quran. لم يجعل له عوجا. There is no crookedness in the book. It's perfect. قيما. It's rightly directing. It guides you perfectly, rightly directing. قيما. And لِيُنذِرَ بَأْسًا شَدِيدًا مِّن لَدُنْهُ. And this book warns you of بَأْسٌ شَدِيد, of a great hardship, of a great difficulty, of great suffering. Now, over here I must make a quick footnote. Sometimes when we come across such ayat of the Quran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about punishment, speaks about difficulty and hardship and suffering, some people like to ask the question and pose the question that what kind of a merciful God is this? That He's talking about all this kind of punishment and difficulty and suffering. This sounds like a God of wrath, a God of anger, a God of vengeance, a God who's out to get me. What kind of a merciful God is this? And I say, well, at a fundamental level, I'm sorry that I don't understand the question, because if God was truly in the business of trying to harm us and punish us, why would He be warning us? Why would He send messengers? Inna arsalnaka bilhaqqi bashira wa nadhira. Why would He send thousands upon thousands of prophets literally to warn us? If you want to really inflict harm and punish someone and make someone suffer, you don't send thousands and hundreds of thousands of warnings. The example I like to give is that when a mother sees her young child from a distance walking towards the fire or walking towards the stove, and the mother begins to scream at the child from a distance, it's not because she hates the child. It's not because she wants the child to suffer. She's not threatening the child. Sometimes we confuse threatening with warning. When God inzar in the Quran God is not threatening us. God is warning us. The same way the mother screams because she wants to warn the child, because she knows if the child gets close to that stove or touches the fire, the child will burn his hand and the child will suffer and harm himself. And so she's seeking to warn the child so he protects himself. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala seeks to do the very same in the Quran. He seeks to warn us so we may remain protected from harming ourselves and causing ourselves to suffer. لِيُنذِرَ بَأْسًا شَدِيدًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying this Quran warns us of ba'sun shadidan. Ba's in the Arabic language is anything which causes great hardship and difficulty. In fact, even the term ba'as in the Arabic language is often used to define war. War is sometimes referred to as ba's, because there's tremendous difficulty, hardship, and suffering in war. And so the question becomes, what is this ba'sun shadidan that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is warning us about? Now, one of our mufassirin in his commentaries makes a very, very profound reflection on this ayah. He says, if you examine the state of the world around us today, you will find that we as human beings are currently experiencing ba'sun shadidan. Is the world today not filled with tremendous hardship, suffering, pain? Is the state of the world today not very hellish? Is there not so much war and oppression and poverty and famine and corruption? Is there not such a terrible hardship and difficulty afflicting the human race? Are we not living a hellish life? And I find this to be a profound reflection, because sometimes when we read ayat of the Quran and we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is warning us of difficulty and punishment and suffering, we think sometimes incorrectly that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is exclusively warning us about the hereafter and the hellfire. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala most certainly does warn us about the hereafter. He does warn us about the fire of hell, no doubt. But the warnings about the punishment and the suffering and the difficulties are not limited to just the hereafter. You and I today, here in this world, can also experience tremendous difficulty, hardship, suffering. We may experience a very hellish existence if we turn away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is the cause of the hellish state of the world today? It's the humans who've neglected God, rejected God, turned away from the instructions of God and the divine agents of God, and hence the human race has brought upon itself tremendous difficulty, tremendous hardship, tremendous suffering. لِيُنذِرَ بَأْسًا شَدِيدًا. This is why Allah says in the Quran, وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لَهُمْ عَذَابٌ شَدِيدٌ. But عَذَابٌ شَدِيد is not limited to just akhirah. When you turn away from God and you reject God and you turn away from His remembrance, you will experience tremendous pain, suffering, and difficulty even here in this world. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala beautifully describes and mentions in the Holy Quran وَمَنْ أَعْرَضَ عَنْ ذِكْرِي فَإِنَّ لَهُ مَعِيشَةً ضَنْكًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala beautifully states, whoever turns away from my remembrance, most certainly they will experience ma'ishatan dhanka, a life full of pressure, full of stress, a very constricted life. Because if you don't have God in your life, if you don't have faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then oftentimes the journey of life is a very, very lonely journey, because you lack someone to turn to at all moments of your life, someone that you can open up to, someone that you can speak to, someone whom you know is watching over you and has your back. When you lack that outlet, your life feels very constricted, full of pressure, full of stress, because you have no one to open up to. In fact, oftentimes, when we go through difficulties in life and we experience a lot of hardship, one of the basic things we as human beings, we all need, very simply, more than advice oftentimes, is just someone we can just open up to and will listen to us with a genuine heart. Someone I can just vent to without them judging me, thinking I'm a terrible person, without them worrying, without me worrying if they're going to use this against me, if they're going to manipulate me in the future because I opened up to them. Just want someone to open up to and share my problems with, who will genuinely listen to me with a sincere heart. And this type of relationship, this type of opening up is exactly the type of relationship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to have with Him, wants us to call upon Him for. And He gives us examples, beautiful examples in the Holy Quran of the greatest of His prophets who had this type of open and honest relationship with Him. A direct line of communication where they could be brutally honest with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and share their concerns. And one such example is the beautiful story of Nabi Musa alayhi salam. As we know very famously, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands Nabi Musa and Nabi Harun to go towards Fir'aun, اذهبا إلى فرعون إنه طغى, I want the two of you to go towards the Pharaoh, for he has crossed the limits. He has transgressed the boundaries. And when you go, فَقُولَا لَهُ قَوْلًا لَيِّنًا لَعَلَّهُ يَتَذَكَّرُ أَوْ يَخْشَى. When you go to him, even though he's the Pharaoh, speak to him with a soft tongue, so perhaps he may be reminded, perhaps his heart may be inspired with the fear and reverence of God. But when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells Nabi Musa and Nabi Harun this, what is the response of Nabi Musa and Nabi Harun? Profound response. They recognize that this is the command of God. Of course they're going to obey. But this is a monumental task that God is giving them. Being commanded to go back to Egypt, as we would say, to the belly of the beast, to go speak in the court of the Pharaoh, a man who is a baby killer, a man who is a tyrant of tyrants, a man who claims to be God himself. This is not an easy task, to go and speak to this ruthless individual. And so Nabi Musa and Nabi Harun, though prophets of God, though Nabi Musa ulul azam, is showing us the human side of being even a prophet. Even though they are prophets, they're still human beings. They have emotions. What does Nabi Musa and Nabi Harun, what do they tell Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? He said, قَالَ رَبَّنَا إِنَّنَا نَخَافُ أَن يَفْرُطَ عَلَيْنَا أَوْ أَن يَطْغَى. O our nurturing Lord, we are scared that Pharaoh may hasten to harm us, or he may transgress against us. It's a normal human experience. And they're being vulnerable and open and honest with their nurturing Lord. That's the type of relationship they had. They're not rejecting God. They're not saying, God, we're going to reject you and disobey you and not follow your command. Of course, they will follow. But they're having an open, honest, and candid conversation with Allah. That, God, we understand this is your command, but we are a bit scared. You're telling us to go to the Pharaoh. He may harm us. He may transgress against us. And look at the way in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds to them. قَالَ لَا تَخَافَا إِنَّنِي مَعَكُمَا أَسْمَعُ وَأَرَى. Allah tells them in response, don't fear, don't have fear. I am with you, I hear you, and I see you. The tremendous amount of confidence this instills within the human being to know that there is a being who is all-knowing, all-wise, all-powerful, all-seeing, all-hearing, who's with me, who's got my back. You know, sometimes I reflect upon the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so many times in the Quran, He describes Himself as hearing and seeing. Sami' and Basir. Now we say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you could have just sufficed by letting us know you are all-knowing. Because if you are all-knowing, it automatically includes the fact that you can have knowledge of all things that can be heard, you have knowledge of all things that can be seen. It's an all-encompassing term if you tell me you're all-knowing. But perhaps one of the wisdoms as to why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes Himself many times as not only am I all-knowing, but I'm all-hearing and I'm all-seeing is because when you and I recognize that we are seen and we are heard, it's a much more personable connection, isn't it? When someone comes and tells me their problems and I tell them, you know, I know. It's very different than I hear you, I see you. Much more personable, much more touching to the heart. So Allah is saying many times in the Quran, no, I am Sami', I'm Basir. Allah tells them, Innani ma'akuma, I'm with you. Asma'u wa ara. I'm with the both of you. I hear you and I see you. And of course, this ayah of the Quran is not to be limited just to Nabi Musa and Nabi Harun, because that's the beauty and the wisdom of the Holy Quran and the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks. That the Quran is a book of universal principles and guidelines. Even though Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may be speaking in that verse specifically and particularly about Nabi Musa and Harun, that verse does not need to be limited exclusively to just them. It extends to us as well, those who claim to be believers in God, that God is with us, as He tells us in other ayat. وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ. I'm closer to them than your jugular vein. As we mentioned in the famous ayat of Ayatul Kursi, Allahu waliyul ladhina amanu. God is the guardian of those who believe. Meaning Allah is letting each and every one of us know, I want you to know that I've got your back. Allahu waliyul ladhina amanu. In fact, wilaya literally means when two things are joined together. When two things are connected to one another, that's wilaya. So when God says, Allahu waliyul ladhina amanu, He's reminding us as human beings that human being, do not for a second think that you are separate from me. We are not separated. It is your distortion of reality, your negligence, your forgetfulness that makes you think as such. But I am with you. I've got your back. And having this understanding, I tell you, it completely changes the way you and I live as human beings. Because that internal confidence, that eternal stability, that eternal internal tranquility allows us then to better navigate life and make right decisions. Because oftentimes, what causes us in life to go astray, to make the wrong choices, is because of our own internal worries and doubts and fears. We psychologically lose the battle and end up harming ourselves. But a believer, through their iman, through their faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through their recognition in Him and understanding of Him, is granted inner peace, inner stability, inner tranquility. As Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, Allahumma, the beloved individual whom we have gathered to celebrate tonight, he beautifully expresses himself in his famous supplication of Dua al-Arafah, when he's speaking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the plains of Arafah, and he beautifully expresses to God, Ya uddati fi shiddati. Ya sahibi fi wahdati. Ya ghiyathi fi kurbati. That, oh Allah, you are my means in my hardship. You are my companion in my loneliness. You are my relief in my agony. If you want to understand Al-Hussein ibn Ali, you must understand the God of Hussein ibn Ali. Then you will understand where that strength, that resolve, that tranquility, that peace amidst the hardest of trials comes from. And that's why you find, even on the day of Ashura, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam and his companions, they established salah in the middle of the battlefield. In fact, if you read the seerah of the Holy Prophet, it's actually profound to read and understand. They say that oftentimes during times of war and battle, the Prophet would establish even more salah. Now to us, me and you, this is a bit contradictory. Because when we're going through busy times in life, such as traveling, catching a flight, so does God really want me to pray in this moment? Do I really need to pray in this moment? We're always looking for excuses not to pray. Because in our mind, this is just arbitrary item to check off the checkbox. We haven't understood it. We're looking, the busier we are, the less time we have for prayer. The more difficulties and hardships we're going through, the more and less consistent in our prayer we become. When it comes to Abu Abdullah, when it comes to the Holy Prophet, during times of war, during times of difficulty and hardship, they are even more consistent in their establishment of prayer. Why? Because for them, prayer is not just an arbitrary ritual. For them, prayer is a means of connecting and conversing with the source of all perfection, the source of all existence, the source of their tranquility. In fact, if you examine the word salah in the Arabic language, there are many different opinions as to the linguistic origin of the word salah. One opinion states that the term salah, the word salah, comes from the root word of sila, which means connection. We say, silatul raham, when you have to maintain connection with your relatives. And they say salah comes from sila because at the core, one of the core fundamental wisdoms, the core essence of salah is for us to develop a connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells Nabi Musa in the Holy Quran, إِنَّنِي أَنَا اللَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنَا فَاعْبُدْنِي وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ لِذِكْرِي. That Nabi Musa, I want you to establish prayer. Why? لِذِكْرِي, for my remembrance. You might say, God, why? Do you need me to remember you? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of course, answers in other ayat of the Quran, of course not, but rather, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَتَطْمَئِنُّ قُلُوبُهُمْ بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبِ. I don't need you to remember me, but I need you to understand that it is in my remembrance does your inner tranquility and composure lie. Because even if you and I just basically logically assess, if you and I try to hold on to anything in this physical world to be the means and the source of stability, we are 100% setting ourselves up for heartbreak and disappointment. Because whether we like to admit it or not, every single thing in this material world is temporary, vanishing, and perishing. كُلُّ شَيْءٍ هَالِكٍ illa wajha. Everything is perishing. I can hold on to my high-paying salary job as the source of my stability and tranquility, but what happens when the tech industry goes into a bit of a low cycle and now I get laid off? All of a sudden, my stability is shaken. I can hold on to my spouse, but at the end of the day, God forbid, she may leave this world before I do. Stability shaken. I can hold on to my parents, and they are most certainly, they contribute to our stability. But if that's the sole source of our stability, it's going to be shaken because one day they may also leave this world before us. Anything and everything in this world is perishing. There's only one constant. كُلُّ شَيْءٍ هَالِكٌ إِلَّا وَجْهَهُ. Anything and everything is perishing except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so it's only logical then that it is only and exclusively through His remembrance can I actually have internal peace and tranquility, for He is the only and exclusive source of true and eternal stability. Hence, أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبِ. And once you and I begin to grasp this reality, then you and I begin to understand how to start to navigate the difficulties of life. You know, we look around the world today, and the amount of carnage and oppression and destruction we have at least particularly witnessed heightened amounts in the last 2 years with the events in Lebanon, Palestine, all around the world. I mean, you can go on and on naming countries in which there is oppression and injustice. And sometimes we begin to lose hope. Our faith begins to waver. And we start to wonder, how are these individuals living in those lands? How are they able to maintain their faith? So much difficulty, so much loss, so much pain, so much suffering, yet you're seeing images of them still fasting during the months of Ramadan, still upholding prayer, trying their best to observe the commandments of God. You say, where does this level of faith come from? And I remember personally, vividly seeing myself, one image on my Instagram feed scrolling one day that really, I think, summarized the source of their strength and stability. The source of their tranquility amidst all the difficulties and hardships. It was an image where the entire area was completely bombarded and destroyed, as many of you have seen the images and the world has seen. Entire region was just absolute carnage as a result of God knows how many bombs were dropped on that region. And in this picture, in the front of the picture, there was the remnants of a car that had been blown apart. But the back windshield of the car was somewhat still intact. And when amongst all the dirt, as you know, when there's dirt on the windshield, you can write on the windshield. Many people, you know, when it snows, they love to draw snowflakes and they leave nice designs on the car. Now, in this immense destruction, carnage, and dirt, in this picture, this young girl had written on the back of the windshield, Allahu Fissaha, which is translated as, God is in the arena. That's it. That's the answer right there. How do you have the perseverance, the stability, the strength, the resolve to be able to go through these tremendous difficulties and hardships? That statement right there. That I remind myself, God is in the arena. And when God is in the arena, and He is irremovable from the arena, I understand that any and every difficulty I'm going through, God is all-knowing and He knows about it. Any and every difficulty I'm going through, God is all-wise, so there must be my ultimate best interest for me to go through this difficulty. And any and every difficulty I'm going through, I know God is all-powerful, so at any moment, He can turn the situation and grant me victory. God is in the arena. In fact, even if you read some of the maqatil literature of the day of Ashura, that needs to be studied by us, some of the profound lines that Abu Abdullah uttered on that day, that demonstrated to us his source of stability, his source of strength. One of these profound lines is, you find in the maqatil literature, they mention that after Abu Abdullah lost his infant child, there's a profound statement mentioned that he uttered after this tremendous loss. And of course, today being a happy occasion, I don't want to get into the various gruesome and painstaking events of that day. We all know of the stories and how much loss and suffering was experienced which culminated with that final loss before Abu Abdullah himself went. He loses his infant child. The Maqta literature mentions that Abu Abdullah, after experiencing that loss, uttered one profound statement according to one of the narrators, where he stated, هَوَّنَ مَا نَزَلَ بِي أَنَّهُ بِعَيْنِ اللَّهِ. He said, what makes this a bit easier for me to bear is the fact that I know that God is watching. That's the source of strength. That's the source of stability. That's the source of tranquility. The type of faith and iman that allowed him on the plains of Arafah to utter those famous lines that, "Oh Allah, ماذا وجد من فقدك وما الذي فقد من وجدك." That, "Oh Allah, what did he find, he who lost you, and what did he lose, he who found you?" That when you have that faith, that iman, that inner peace and inner tranquility and stability is unshakable. It becomes like our fifth holy Imam, Imam Muhammad al-Baqir alayhi salam. As he so beautifully describes about the believers, he says, "Al-mu'minu aslabu min al-jabal." A believer is even firmer and more unshakable than a mountain. Because the mountain, if you drop, eventually you drop bunker buster bombs and nuclear bombs, you can even destroy mountains. But no matter how many bunker buster bombs you drop, and no matter how many hospitals you destroy and schools you tear to pieces, what you cannot destroy is the iman of the people. Because it's not something tangible, is it? It's something deeply rooted within the heart. That can never be shaken. That can never be eliminated. That can never be destroyed. That's why, even beautifully linguistically speaking in the Arabic language, when we talk about iman, when we talk about mu'mineen, which we translate as believers, mu'min, iman, comes from the root word of aman. Aman means security. Because the idea is that through our faith and our belief in God, it grants us security. It grants us tranquility. This is why, by the way, one of the names, one of the Asma'ullah is Al-Mu'min. What does it mean God is Mu'min? Is God a believer? No, God is Al-Mu'min. He's the grantor of security. When He grants faith, it grants security. وَالَّذِي أَنزَلَ السَّكِينَةَ فِي قُلُوبِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ لِيَزْدَادُوا إِيمَانًا مَعَ إِيمَانِهِمْ. He is the one who reveals tranquility, security, faith into the hearts of the believers. And when you and I understand that we have a constant connection to a supernatural reality who controls every single atom in existence, it makes us unshakable and unmovable. In fact, if you watch some of the videos of some of these brave individuals who have been sacrificing their lives to protect their homeland, to protect their faith, to defend themselves in the face of some of the most ruthless tyrants of the world, you might say, how do you get the level of confidence to be able to face such challenges head on? And you listen to some of their stories, and they mention that in our darkest of days, when the odds are against us, we resort to beautiful supplications. We pray to God that, Ya Allah, Allahumma, Ya man idha tadayaqat al-umur, fataha lana baban lam tadhhab ilayhi al-awham. That, oh Allah, when the matters become very constricted and there seems to be no way out, open up for us doors and ways that not even the wildest of imaginations can conceive. We would make such prayers and we would watch miracles happen. And we would persist and we would defend. That's the power of Iman. And in honor of the man whom we have gathered to celebrate tonight, our beloved third holy Imam, Imam al-Hussain ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. I want to conclude tonight's presentation by sharing one profound hadith that's attributed, actually narrated to us by the son of Abu Abdullah, our fourth holy Imam, Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam. This beautiful tradition, I tell you, this is why we say, honestly speaking, Abu Abdullah is like a university. This is the University of Hussein, and you and I are lucky enough to be its students. This beautiful tradition is reported by Sheikh As-Saduq in his work Ma'ani al-Akhbar. Sheikh As-Saduq narrates, his chain of narration eventually reaches the fourth holy Imam. So it's a first-person eyewitness from an infallible who was present at Karbala. The fourth holy Imam narrates that on the day of Ashura, as I was watching some of the companions, and as the affair began to get very intense, as it started to become very obvious what's going to happen, and the massacre that's about to take place, Imam Sajjad alayhi salam says, some of the companions, a few of the companions in the army, the colors on their faces began to change a little bit. Their hearts began to waver a little bit. Because this is tremendous, tremendous difficulty that they're about to undergo. At the same time, there were other companions alongside Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam who were very, very firm, very radiant, persevering. Now in this moment, some of the companions looked at each other. And some of them, the hadith mentions, فَقَالَ بَعْضُهُمْ إِلَى بَعْضٍ. Some of them said to one another, that look at Hussein, انظروا لا يبالي بالموت. This man, Hussein ibn Ali, he doesn't seem to fear death at all. There's no fear in his eyes. Imam al-Hussein then turns and he looks to his companions and he utters some of the most profound lines that demonstrate the utmost levels of faith, the utmost levels of confidence in God, the utmost levels of understanding of the reality of death and life. He looks at his companions, and the hadith mentions, narrated by our fourth holy Imam, I saw my father look at the companions and tell them, Sabran banil kiram. Be patient, O children of generosity. It's an expression. Sabran banil kiram. Fama al-maut illa qantaratun تعبر بكم عن البؤس والضراء إلى الجنان الواسعة والنعيم الدائمة فأيكم يكره أن ينتقل من سجن إلى قصر. He looks at his companions and he's telling them so profoundly, be patient. For what is death other than being transported from difficulty, hardship, and difficulty to eternal paradise and eternal bliss? And which one of you would not like to be transported from a prison to a castle? So what are we worried about? This is Al-Hussein ibn Ali. The same way, by the way, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Tawbah mentions, when He's describing a scene of a battlefield between the believing army and the disbelievers, Allah tells the believers, I want you to tell the disbelievers, قُلْ هَلْ تَرَبَّصُونَ بِنَا إِلَّا إِحْدَى الْحُسْنَيَيْنِ. Allah says, believers, tell them, are you waiting for it to fall upon us either one of the two good outcomes? Because you see, in a battlefield, there's two outcomes. Either you win the battle, or you lose and you die. Allah is saying for the believers, what are you guys worried about? Tell the disbelievers, are you waiting that one of the two good outcomes should fall upon us? Both outcomes are good for us. Either we win and we're victorious, or we die in the cause and we achieve martyrdom and are transported to eternal bliss and paradise. هَلْ تَرَبَّصُونَ بِنَا إِلَّا إِحْدَى الْحُسْنَيْنِ. What do we have to be worried about here? But fortunate for us, fortunate are we that not only do we have, of course, the teachings of the Holy Quran, that we learn such profound teachings that teach us Iman, the power of Iman, the power of belief in God, having faith in God, the peace it can give us. But if our faith wavers, as it so often does, how fortunate are we that we also have the best of role models, the best of leaders, the same way when some of the faith of some of the companions in Karbala slightly began to waver, they were able to look at their leader, Hussein ibn Ali, and he was able to infuse within them the spirit of God and the power of Iman. You and I are blessed with that same opportunity that we can resort to our leaders in our times of difficulty and distress, and they may be able to infuse that same spirit within us. This is why we say, إِنَّ الْحُسَيْنَ مِصْبَاحُ الْهُدَى وَسَفِينَةُ النَّجَاةِ. Certainly, Aba Abdullah is the lantern of guidance, the ark of salvation. And I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on such a night for having granted us the honor and the privilege to know such personalities who show us in practice what it looks like to have true Iman, to be firmer than the mountains, to have inner peace and stability and tranquility amidst life's greatest difficulties and challenges. And I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on such nights that we are able to be inspired by such personalities, pay attention and more heed to their teachings, to their message, so we may be able to achieve and attain for ourselves the eternal peace and the eternal bliss and tranquility that God has created us to reach. وآخر الدعوان الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين.
I guess the reciters are not here. Hiya. Come on, Bismillah, please, come on. I think there's two of you, right? Too shy, come on. You have another mic? Or? You have two mics, okay.
صلوات. वो नूर जिसको शह मशरक़ैन कहते हैं, उसी को नूर खुदा नूर ऐन कहते हैं. बिखर गया जो ही नूर कायनात बना, सिमट गया जो उसी को हुसैन कहते हैं. हम हुसैन वाले हैं, हम हुसैन वाले हैं, हम हुसैन वाले हैं, हम हुसैन वाले हैं. ये हमारी किस्मत है, हम हुसैन वाले हैं, हम हुसैन वाले हैं, हम हुसैन वाले हैं, हम हुसैन वाले हैं, हम हुसैन वाले हैं. हम नबी के आशिक हैं, हम अली के दीवाने, हम नबी के आशिक हैं, ہم علی کے دیوانے اور حسن سے نسبت ہے ہم حسین والے ہیں 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 جان مانگو میں دل نہیں دوں گا جان مانگو میں دل نہیں دوں گا دل ٹھکانا میرے حسین کا ہے ہر زمانہ میرے حسین کا ہے ہر زمانہ میرے حسین کا ہے ہر زمانہ میرے حسین کا ہے جس کی خاطر یہ کائنات بنی جس کی خاطر یہ کائنات بنی ایسا نانا میرے حسین کا ہے ہر زمانہ میرے حسین کا ہے ہر زمانہ میرے حسین کا ہے ہر زمانہ میرے حسین کا ہے یہ جو کعبہ ہے تم نہ سمجھو گے یہ جو کعبہ ہے تم نہ سمجھو گے گھر پرانا میرے حسین کا ہے ہر زمانہ میرے حسین کا ہے ہر زمانہ میرے حسین کا ہے ہر زمانہ میرے حسین کا ہے میرے دل کی صدا یا حسین میرے دل کی صدا یا حسین میرے دل کی صدا یا حسین سب کا ہو مرحبا یا حسین میرے دل کی صدا یا حسین سب کا ہو مرحبا یا حسین اس کی نسل میں غیرت رہے گی جس نے کہا یا حسین میرے دل کی صدا یا حسین سب کا ہو مرحبا یا حسین میرے دل کی صدا یا حسین سب کا ہو مرحبا یا حسین کس نور کی آمد ہوئی سجدے میں ہے فاطمہ ہر دور کے یزید کا ہونے لگا خاتمہ کرب و بلا سے آواز آئی لو گیا یا حسین میرے دل کی صدا یا حسین سب کا ہو مرحبا یا حسین میرے دل کی صدا یا حسین سب کا ہو مرحبا یا حسین مصروف ہوں غرور میں اب کوئی بھی در نہیں فطر اس کا تو سردار ہے اڑنے میں ہم سر نہیں جبریل دیکھو میرے پروں پر اب ہے لکھا یا حسین میرے دل کی صدا یا حسین سب کا ہو مرحبا یا حسین میرے دل کی صدا یا حسین سب کہو مرحبا یا حسین. اس کی نسل میں غیرت رہے گی جس نے کہا یا حسین. میرے دل کی صدا یا حسین. سب کہو مرحبا یا حسین. میرے دل کی صدا یا حسین. سب کہو مرحبا یا حسین. چلو.
Thank you, boys. That was Kamil Nathu and Hussein Daya. One loud salawat. A great performance. Let's see, Pasha, can you top that? Very difficult.
I'll take that. I know. Assalamu alaikum. And mashallah, beautifully recited. Please give one more salawat to our young reciters. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajjal farajah. جشن مولود امام حسین علیہ السلام آپ سب کو بہت مبارک ہو. میں انشاءاللہ منقبت کے چند اشعار آپ کے سامنے پیش کر کے اور اجازت چاہوں گا. ایک دفعہ اور درود پڑھ دیجئے محمد و آل محمد. اللہم صلی علی صلی علی نبینا صلی محمد صلی علی شفیعنا صلی علی محمد. درود پڑھیے محمد و آل محمد. اللہم صلی علی محمد. شبیر یہ سب دنیا تیرے نام سے زندہ ہے. استاد سبت جعفر صاحب کا کلام، انہی کا پڑھا ہوا، انہی کا لکھا ہوا. شبیر یہ سب دنیا تیرے نام سے زندہ ہے. یہ دین محمد کا تیرے نام سے زندہ ہے. اللہ کا بھی کلمہ تیرے نام سے زندہ ہے. پھیلی ہے زمانے میں توحید کی تنویریں، گونجی ہے تیرے دم سے کونین میں تکبیریں. حقا تجھ سے تکبیریں. ایک درود پڑھیے محمد و آل محمد. پھیلی ہے زمانے میں توحید کی تنویریں، گونجی ہے تیرے دم سے کونین میں تکبیریں. حقا تجھ سے پہ تیرے نام سے زندہ ہے. یہ دین محمد کا تیرے نام سے زندہ ہے. تعبیر خلیل ہے تو اور فخر مسیحا کا. تو وارث آدم ہے موسیٰ کا تو کہنا کیا. جب نام شہبت تیرے نام سے زندہ ہے. یہ دین محمد کا تیرے نام سے زندہ ہے. بہت ہی خوبصورت شعر ہے. منی کی سند بخشی تجھے سرور عالم نے اور یہ بھی کہا میں ہوں شبیر تیرے دم سے. شبیر تیرا نانا تیرے نام سے زندہ ہے. شبیر تیرا نانا تیرے نام سے زندہ ہے. فطرس تو فرشتہ تھا حر کو بھی امان دی ہے. جاں ابن مظاہر کو اور دین کو بخشی ہے. یہ دین نبی حقا تیرے نام سے زندہ ہے. یہ دین محمد کا تیرے نام سے زندہ ہے. والفجر میں تو شامل تطہیر میں تو شامل. کوثر کی مودت کی تفسیر میں تو شامل. والفجر میں تو شامل تطہیر میں تو شامل. کوثر کی مودت کی تفسیر میں تو شامل. والعصر کا بھی سورہ تیرے نام سے زندہ ہے. والعصر کا بھی سورہ تیرے نام سے زندہ ہے. عہد نبوی علوی دور حسنی کے بعد اسلام تنے بے جان 61 ہجری کے بعد تیرے نام سے زندہ تھا. تیرے نام سے زندہ ہے. یہ دین محمد کا تیرے نام سے زندہ ہے. یہ شعر بہت خوبصورت ہے, پیش خدمت ہے. بیعت بھی نہ لے پایا سر بھی نہ جھکا پایا. ظالم کو کیا رسوا سرور نے سرے نزا. بیعت بھی نہ لے پایا سر بھی نہ جھکا پایا. ظالم کو کیا رسوا سرور نے سرے نزا. قربان بھی اے آقا تیرے نام سے زندہ ہے. یہ دین محمد کا تیرے نام سے زندہ ہے. اللہ کا بھی کلمہ تیرے نام سے زندہ ہے. درود پڑھیے محمد و آل محمد.
Thank you, Pasha. I think the jury is out for that. Okay. Okay, I've got about half an hour of announcements to make here. So please bear. मजलिस नहीं कर रहा हूँ मेरा कसूर नहीं है यार मुझे क्या क्या है Okay, my esteemed seniors, respected scholars, our visiting alims, Brother Unia, Assalamu alaikum. I was told to wait after my salam so that people can answer. Thanks, Muhammad. Okay, no, it's not going to be half an hour. It's about 25 minutes, so it shouldn't take too long. Okay. So tonight's sponsor, we have two sponsors for tonight. Bande Khuda for the Isal Sawab of all Marhumin in the Mithani family and the Hirchi family, and Bande Khuda for the Isal Sawab of all Marhumin in the donors family and all Marhumin. Brothers and sisters, please recite Surah Fatiha. Thank you. Thank you. Second one is about the Sunday morning program. Tomorrow is going to be starting at 6:30 with Fajr Salat, followed by Dua and a 15-minute lecture, and ending with breakfast. I believe the Dr. Sayyid Nasir Zaidi will be the one who's giving the lecture. Tonight is also the second year anniversary of Marhum Hussein Bojani. Most of you know Marhum. He's been our president. He's been in the community for the longest time. He's always held multiple positions in the executive. We miss him dearly. I was asked by his family to please remember him in your du'as and please recite Surah Fatiha for him. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you. This message is also for sisters to please pay attention to this as well. Take a couple of seconds here. I would like a moment of your time and talk about a lady who was with us and among us until about a year ago. She was a caring and a loving person with an amazing personality which affected positively with whoever she met. Marhuma Naseem Kareem was an active member of the community for the last 12 years. She lived in Vancouver with her husband. She was a Quran teacher in madrasa and enjoyed seeing the children's progress in Quran. She recited majalis during Saturday ladies programs. It is very fitting to have her first year death anniversary on the Kushali. She loved to celebrate all the Kushalis and believed in balance between life and akhirah. We are indeed indebted to her for the unconditional love and support, not only for her family, but this entire community, and especially the Az-Zahraa Madrasa community, which benefited the most from her. Please join us in remembering the Marhuma with a loud salawat and the Surah Fatiha. Allah. Brother Aliza, please.
It'll be 2 minutes of this. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Dear esteemed scholars, my elders, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. As mentioned, Marhuma Naseem Kareem was a Quran teacher in madrasa and enjoyed seeing the teacher's progress in Quran. Also, as many of you know, her last wish was to travel to ziyarat, and alhamdulillah, she was able to perform her last ziyarat with her entire family. In her name, the family of the Marhuma has graciously facilitated a madrasa award of $5,000 annually for the next 5 years to a teacher that has shown dedication and commitment to the madrasa, and the award is meant to recognize these teachers. The idea is that the funds can be used to perform ziyarah, inshallah, thus combining Marhuma's passion for madrasa and visiting the shrines of the holy Ma'sumin, alayhim assalam. It is without doubt that so many teachers would qualify for this award. And so we look forward to presenting the award today, inshallah, and for the 4 years to come. It is therefore a great honor to announce this year's Marhuma Naseem Karim Madrasa Teacher Recognition Award, and it goes to Sister Sumaya Bachu. Please recite aloud salawat. Sister Sumaya has grown up within the community and shown great passion for service at madrasa and beyond. Like her parents and brothers, she has developed great love for Quran, and after graduating from madrasa, stepped in very quickly to not only teach Quran, but also become a crucial member of the Quran coordination team. To mention just a couple of her many accomplishments with her mother, Sister Sumaya has co-authored the books we use in teaching Quran, and through their efforts, our madrasa today is ahead of the current efforts of the MCE and many other madaris. Sister Sumaya also participated in the MCE Quran conference held in London. She was one of the very few members or of youth to do that. Please recite a salawat for Sister Sumaya and recite a Surah Fatiha for Marhuma Naseem Karim. Al-Fatiha. And please recite aloud salawat. As incredibly fortunate we are with the current teachers and staff, the madrasa is always looking for volunteers, either as teachers or in any other capacity. We also encourage parents to take an active role to assist in this very important institution. Volunteering at madrasa is a great honor, and we're incredibly proud of all our volunteers. For current and future volunteers, please recite 3 of your loudest salawat. Muhammad, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I also have another announcement. If the AV team can please put up the poster. And this is to do with the Quran, the Shahr Ramadan Quran Challenge. The Madrasa Quran team is excited to announce the annual Shahr Ramadan Quran Challenge, walking in the footsteps of the Ahlul Bayt. This year's theme focuses on living our daily lives by the virtues and values of the Ahlul Bayt as taught in the Holy Quran. More than just a challenge, this is an invitation to deepen our connection with the Quran and embody its teachings in a practical and meaningful way. The challenge will officially launch on 15 Shaban, inshallah. So please please see the poster for details. It is open to all students, not just limited to the madrasa students, all students. And inshallah, more details will be followed. Jazakallah. Couple more minutes there.
About an hour more. So it wasn't me, it was him too. So it's just, you can blame him for that. Okay, sorry. Just got this thing here. This announcement is from the Itikaf team. We are pleased to announce the dates for Itikaf this Ramadan 1445. Itikaf will take place from Friday 7th to Sunday March 9th. As in previous years, registration will be conducted online. Registration link will be made accessible on the 15th of Shaban at 8 a.m. and will be shared a few days in advance. If you wish to volunteer, please contact Brother Sadiq on the gents side and Sister Fatima Sharif on the ladies side. Please stay tuned for further announcements through your communication channels and help spread the word so that as many people as possible can benefit. Okay, now comes the last part. It's been about 4 years since I was here to announce an engagement or a wedding of others, of our youths. So tonight I'm back, and after 4 years I have to make up the time. It gives me great pleasure and honor to announce the engagement of one of our most eligible bachelors of the community. He's got a big smile on his face. Guys, where's the camera? Okay, I think they'll get on to it in a minute. It gives me great honor to announce the engagement of Siddiqa Darsi, daughter of Ghulam Abbas and Masuma Darsi of New Jersey, to our very own Ali Zaman Ladakh, son of Muhammad Ladakh and Batul Ladakh of Vancouver. See, Ali Zaman, you're popular. I didn't even ask for salawat. The Ladakh family here, Marhum Raza Bhai, Askar Bhai, and Amir Bhai, and the entire family have had almost a natural desire to serve the community since Vancouver Khojas were established here in Vancouver. Ali Zaman's father, Muhammad, also had many positions in the EC and VP and also the president of Jamaat. His Ali Zaman's granddad, Jafar Bhai, sitting on the, okay, we're not going to call this the departure lounge anymore. Okay? This is known as the business class lounge, okay, every time. They get the best, they get the first food, they get the best tea, the hottest tea. So no more departure lounge, it's going to be business class lounge, okay? All agreed? Okay. So I was going to say, Jafar Bhai sitting there in the business class lounge. He's got a big smile on his face too. Congratulations to everybody. He has also held, he's been a president of the Jamaat in many other positions, including the treasurer too. Now, Ali Zaman, I've never been to New York. Tickets are pretty cheap right now. You can book it. I'll send my details for 2, business class. Okay. If the camera was there, there'd be a proof. Okay, those of you who don't know Ali Zaman, just stand up just for a few seconds. I won't make you stand for too long. I promise. I know. No. They can't see you. No, it's behind. Just for a few seconds. Just a few seconds. Okay. Same thing. Okay, thank you very much. The camera is still on you. Ali Zaman, turn. Come on. I think you purposely sat there. Okay. Anyway, congratulations to the entire family, to the Ladakh family, to the Darsi family. We're very happy. I have something to share with you too. I mean, there's a volleyball team here which goes to different tournaments every year. One of the cities that goes to is New York. Whenever there's a New York tournament coming up, Ali Zaman, good volleyball player, he's always there every practice, tries the hardest to make the cut. So I always wondered, a lot of times he's either injured with his wrist or something or the other. But when it comes to tournaments to New York, which happens once a year, he's there every single time. Now I know. But sometimes after the thing was kind of finalized, he came back and started disappearing. He'd say he's going camping. He's put his head down. Well, look, I got the news from somebody. It's a second-hand news. Hopefully, it's right or wrong. I have no idea. Congratulations, Ali Zaman. Very happy for you guys. Very happy with everybody. Loudest of your voice of salawat, please. Please rise for ziyarah. Thank you.
السلام عليك يا رسول الله السلام عليك يا محمد بن عبد الله ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام عليك وعلى ابن عمك أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام عليك وعلى ابنتك وبضعتك سيدة نساء العالمين فاطمة الزهراء ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام عليك وعلى سبطيك الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتك. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام على أئمة المسلمين من ذرية الحسين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي. الصلاة والسلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان، عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك، وجعلنا من أنصارك وأعوانك والمستشهدين بين يديك وتحت لوائك. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا، حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وصل يا رب على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين.
Ladies and